some of you guys, some more than others for sure. Walking the hallways, I see you. I see some of you guys a lot, right? But I appreciate and I thank everyone for just signing up and just coming to see me talk for a little bit.
A little louder.
A little louder?
Yeah.
So once again, thank you guys for coming in and kind of like signing up to see what I do, what me and my wife do. For those that don't know, this is my wife, Edithmary. And she's my personal assistant. She's my wife. She does everything for me. I don't go anywhere without her. She's the mother of my 8-year-old boy, who I love. And she's the mother of baby Liana that's right here. Soon to
Fully clap.
Yes, sir. So yeah, so we own a studio in East Hartford. We do photography, but we also do hairstyling and barbering. We cut some of you guys. She's done some of the staff and everything. So we just like to take care of people. Everything that I do is basically to help others. You know, especially help others feel good about themselves. Seeing that I came from a place where people used to make fun of other people all the time, and you couldn't sit at my lunch table because you probably leave crying because people were just so brutal with, you know, bullying and roasting each other and stuff, which is all in good fun, but I know for sometimes, you know, it creates insecurities in some people. So I like to bring out the best in people. Right? So some of the things that we're going to talk about is about ourselves, about what we do. This is the table of content of the slides that we have. So just kind of lock in for that. I know you guys have tons of questions. I know some of you guys just said you have cameras already and just and want to know how to use them and take better photos and stuff like that. So I'll walk through some of my process and what I do. But before I do that, I'm self-taught. Nobody taught me how to use a camera. I remember when I first started, when I held the camera in my hands, which was this little thing right here. This is a Canon M50. It's a mirrorless camera. It was my first camera ever. When I started, my buddy, he asked me to record his wedding. And I was like, bro, I'm not gonna do it with an iPhone. Like, that's just like not good quality. It is, but I've seen people do it with iPhones, but I wanted to provide something better. So I bought a camera. It was like $500, $600. I used the lens that it came with, and I got on YouTube. I signed up for YouTube at university, pretty much. And pretty much I looked up videos on how to record, how to take pictures, and I kind of just went solo. And ever since then, it kind of took off. It ignited a passion in me to create more art. My friends liked the videos and pictures I took. So yeah, so this was my first camera ever, and I'll pass it around for some of you guys to kind of like get a feel for it. So that's what I started with. So as I said, I do a little bit of different things. I do photography, I do barbering. I'm also a co-pastor at my church. I'm a father, and I work here full time as well. So a lot of people ask me, how do I find the time to do all these things, right? And it's hard, but you kind of learn how to manage time. Sometimes it can be difficult, but it can be done. Especially when you have goals in mind to provide and, you know, just kind of be better for your family, you'll make it happen. So whatever you want to do, you can do it. Don't put any excuses, pretty much. Yeah, and I'll let my wife kind of talk a little bit about herself.
Hello, I'm Miss Lugo. Sometimes you might see me around the hallways. I am a paraprofessional here at the school, and I love to help the students I work with. I am also a hairstylist, and I like to do makeup also on the outside. So it's something that helps us when we're doing our business. While Guillermo is setting up, sometimes I'll do the hair or the makeup just to make them look good in front of the camera. Like he said, I'm a mother of an 8-year-old. We're expecting a new one on the way. And I enjoy painting, capturing special moments through photography, whether it's family, celebration, or a meaningful event. I thrive to help others feel their best inside and out.
So the good thing about having an assistant is that you get to go through your process a little bit quicker, especially with all the equipment that I have to carry. As you guys can see, this is only about a third of the stuff that I have in my actual studio, which is crazy because I started off with that little camera, which was like $500, $600. Now I have this right here, which is a Canon R6, which is about $2,000. And then I have this Blackmagic cinema camera, which is about $1,500, but then the lens is like another $800. So it starts adding up. And then you have the flashes, the lights, the soft boxes, and everything. And you kind of start going down this rabbit hole of buying equipment because you want to make sure at least for me, I want to make sure I provide the best quality for my clients. So at Gem Studio, we want to lead, our photography studio is known for capturing timeless moments with creativity, authenticity, but for the most part, it's about quality. I like to provide high quality. I compare myself to the best of the best, right? Like, I know I'm not there yet. I'm not the best photographer out there, but I want to compare myself to the best of the best, and I want to be able to produce high quality images just like they are, right? Because I love it, and it helps me learn. It helps me find different ways to do things, especially when you're on a budget as well. You can kind of still recreate some of these images with what you have. So sometimes you don't have to go crazy. You just gotta find different ways to make it work. So why we chose photography is because, again, it helps us get the best out of people. It's amazing to me when I have clients who come in and they want a headshot and they're like, Guillermo, I don't know how to pose. Like, what do I do? Like, they just sit there, and then some of the girls, you guys just kind of like, right? And then your head is like all over the go sideways, right? So just helping people, and then some people, they're like, man, I don't naturally smile. Like, I just have this serious face or whatever. And it's not always about capturing the best smile. It's not always about getting the craziest poses. Sometimes just capturing people naturally, who they are, kind of tells that story of who they are and makes them feel confident in themselves. And then we also kind of, as you saw, or as you came in, you kind of heard some music, right? We bring music to every shoot because I feel like music kind of eases the tension, as I was explaining to Ms. Galasso, so you don't feel as awkward, right? You could kind of like dance a little bit or kind of get into a vibe. So I tend to ask my clients what kind of music do they like, right? Do they like country? Do they like rap? Do they like R&B or pop? Because it kind of helps them feel comfortable and gets them into like a comfortable space where they can feel free to like get photos taken by a stranger, right? Because you're meeting somebody for the first time maybe. So it's not always as smooth, but it does help. So photography is a creative outlet for me. It's a way that I can express myself, and my wife as well. It helps me connect with people. As you can see, now I'm in a space where I never thought I'd be ever, right? I didn't go to college for this. I didn't go to school for this. Nobody taught me. I only have a high school diploma, guys, right? So you can do a lot if you dedicate yourself to what you do, and it'll take you places you never thought you'd be in, right? I never saw myself working at a high school at all. and now here I am giving a presentation to you guys. So again, I appreciate the opportunity and for you guys being here. And again, I do it because it also provides, it's another source of income for me and my family. As I strive to, get a better education and everything so I can have that full-time career, this also is another source of income which helps significantly, which I hope that one day I can be able to do it full-time. And I'll tell you guys about, kind of what you can do with photography. So in our 5 years,
Yeah.
that's Mr. Carey.
No way.
Oh, no, look at it, yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know it was in it first. So, that's really
No. Yeah, definitely. Did anyone? Does he still work here though?
Huh?
Does he still work here though?
He does not work here anymore. He's actually doing his own practice or working, doing social work, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, he did work here for a while, and then now he's doing his own thing, right? And before he decided to go somewhere, he's like, Guillermo, I need updated headshots. And I took him to my studio, and this is one of the pictures that, that we were able to get of him. And he loved it because it was his first photo shoot ever,
That's fun.
right? But we got to capture him in such a natural way. This is his natural laugh. If you guys ever see him laugh, his laugh is a little contagious, right? So he kind of like brightens up the room a little bit. So again, in 5 years, we've been in 4 different states. I've been to Puerto Rico to capture weddings. I've been to Massachusetts to capture a wedding, New York, and obviously Connecticut. We've done 94 projects, and we kind of project right now about 20,000 roughly per year, just off this side hustle, right? And I know some of the friends that I follow and some people that I've worked under in the past who have helped me in this, in this profession, they make up to from 70 to 100K per year. So you can make a full-time career out of this if you really dedicate yourself and you have the time and passion to do it. So getting started is not always easy because you grab your camera, right? And you're like, man, I want to start taking photographs and I want to make a career out of this. And everybody thinks it's like, you see all these reels on Instagram of photographers, going viral and taking these great photos and everything. And you're like, man, they just take their camera and they go and they make so much money. But the reality is, it's not always that easy. People tend to cancel. Shoots might not work out because tech fails. Your flash might not work, or your camera battery dies out, or you forgot your SD card, which has happened to me. And I've had to, like, in the middle of a wedding, I've had to go to Walgreens and capture an SD card because mine's got full, right? So you have to, and I've learned to prepare for those sort of things, but you kind of learn as you go, right? But regardless, you gotta keep going. And you also gotta know your worth, and you gotta value your time. As you start, I remember when I first started, I used to take so many pictures, and I used to deliver to clients about 800 photos. And then I realized, what are they gonna do with 800 photos? Right, like, you're not gonna post 800 photos. You're only gonna post about 15, 20, or depending on what Instagram or Facebook allows you to post, right? So then I started kind of narrowing down, okay, how can I value my time a little bit more, save some money because the SD cards are expensive. Hard drives are expensive because then you start running out of space. So there's so many different things. So you gotta make sure you have a good laptop for it to run the programs that you're gonna need to run. And this is my baby right here. So I carry it everywhere, everywhere that I go. I just went to Puerto Rico and I brought it with me, even though I didn't even open it. But it's just to have it, just because I never know. And I also brought my camera just because I always carry it with me because I never know when I want to do a shoot or I want to get creative. But you gotta value your time. Some people will waste your time, And as you're setting appointments and you're like growing your photography business and you're setting appointments, you realize that some people like to run late. And when you set a time for a 1 o'clock and somebody shows up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and you're like, man, you just wasted 2 hours, that could have been someone else's slot, right? And as you start kind of pricing yourself, you start maybe doing free shoots, right? Because you want to get some clients. And as you're getting clients, you want to make sure that you fit everybody in at the right time and for it to go smoothly, so you're not wasting everyone else's time as well. But I said earlier that I tend to work with other photographers and I compare my work with other photographers. And I do that from a perspective of getting better, but I don't let that kind of take the joy of what I do, right? Because I'm not gonna say here, man, like my work sucks. Like, yes, I might think that because I'm my own worst critic, but at the same time, I understand that I'm learning and that I'm getting better. And then I realized that when I look back at the photos I took from day 1, they don't look like the photos that I took at, day 450, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna progress as you go, and as you look back, you're gonna be like, man, I came a long way, right? But don't let comparison steal your joy. Don't let comparison take away from what you like to do. At the end of the day, it's your art. It's what you created. This was your idea. This was your vision. So just take pride in it, even if nobody else likes it.
And take time to practice. I mean, you guys are in a great school that provide photography, right? Not every school has that, so take advantage. So if it's something that you like, start with your cell phone. A lot of people will start with their iPhones. But if you have the opportunity to buy a camera, it doesn't have to be super expensive. You can start with something like the ones that we have here in school, or even a cheaper version like the one that we started, the white one that was going around, just to get your feet wet, you know what I mean? It's good practice. You can practice with your friends, practice with family members, just to get acquainted with the camera and the feel for it, and from there you grow. And just because we didn't go to school for it doesn't mean that you guys don't have to. There's so many programs out there.
Many resources, yeah.
So many resources out there, and if there's a school and you really love it, go for it. We do it part-time, but it doesn't mean that you guys have to do it part-time. You guys can do it full-time and make really good money for it.
I remember when I first started, I used to watch a lot of videos, and Ms. Galasso kind of, she took one of those videos and kind of put it into her course as well, which was, I don't know if you guys seen them, but they're called Mango Street. It's a
Yeah, we just showed
YouTube
them.
channel
Yeah.
called Mango Street. So I watch them a lot because they teach a lot about posing, and also posing clients and everything. So they're a really good couple, and you can find them on YouTube. Another person that I do follow, which is my friend Norman Oates. He's a photographer here in Hartford. Yeah, he's based out of Bloomfield. His name is Norman Oates, and I've worked with him for his anniversary and different projects that he has done. So he makes, you can also find him on YouTube, but he has a lot of followers on Instagram, and I love his work. So there's art, and then there's art that makes you money. What do I mean by that? Is that there's what you like to do, and then there's what brings you some income. Because the difference is, for example, I know a lot of photographers that after I started, I had conversations with other photographers that were starting, and they're like, man, this is my art, I should get paid so and so for this, and they feel very entitled because they feel like their art is like the best thing out there. And sure, if you feel that way, that's great, but then you also you have to understand that there's markets for different things. There's markets for weddings, market for for realtors. There's markets for newborns, right? Portraits, so family events and stuff like that. So there's different markets and different niches for photography, and depending on what you want to do, because you have to find kind of like a subject or a niche that you want to do, because that's going to be your target audience, because they're the ones who are going to pay you in order for you to make some income and make a living out of it. So then there's that, but once you find your niche, you also have to see, okay, what's trending, right? What's being marketed to the people, because you also have to understand that even though you like the art, your art, the other person that's paying you has to like it too, right? So there's art, and then there's art that makes you money. I found out that when I started, even though I love babies, I didn't have the patience to, photograph babies, because it takes a long time. I understood that parents had to like feed their child and change their clothes, and while you're photographing them, they might have an accident. So then that's another thing, where they might feel uncomfortable. So then you've wasted maybe 4 or 5 hours for a shoot that could have been done in one, right? But as you start going on and taking on clients, you start realizing, okay, this is what I like to do, this is what I don't like to do. And as you go on as well, you start realizing, okay, you start getting clients, and then you start realizing there's people you want to work with, and there's people that you don't want to work with. And as your prices go higher, you tend to work with better clients because they're more responsible, right? Sometimes people want you to do something quick and cheap, and you're going to pay for it at the end of the day. Which is why it's important to set up contracts. Always set up a contract. I don't care if it's a family member, a friend. Always make sure you have a contract in place, because that's your time, that's your equipment, that's your art, and that's your money as well. So you want to make sure you're protected. So please find your niche. And I wrote it 3 times because that's super important, because you want to know what you want. You have to know what you like to do.
Yes.
Personally, me and my wife, we like to do weddings, and we like to do events. Why? Because weddings are fun. Like, and when you, I don't know, have most of you guys been to weddings, right? For the most part. So you guys know that there's a lot of dancing, a lot of partying that happens in weddings and stuff like that. So when you're taking pictures and stuff like that, and there's so much love in the room, right? And you get to capture that. You get to capture that love story. So we enjoy doing those. What's something you don't like?
I feel like the newborn, the baby stage is a little tricky when you're doing baby photography. So I'm gonna practice a lot after we have ours, because it's something that a lot of people are looking into baby photography. But I do love, I like the portraits. I like also being in the studio and just taking or having that one-on-one with the clients in the studio. I love that, and the weddings are great. I love the weddings as well.
So wedding and studio work is mostly what we do.
Yeah.
There is a difference, because you have to, when you do studio work, it's more about lighting, and that's when you start using your flashes, and you can take some of this stuff outdoors. But if you're trying to be mobile, it's kind of tough to bring all this gear and set things up when you're on the go. So that's when I try to have clients come in if I know it's going to be. The studio saves us time, because especially if there's like a Sweet 16, or it might be a rainy day or something like that, I try to have the clients come into the studio. We do some studio work, so they have the photos prepped up already, so that on that day they're able to enjoy their time and not have to worry about taking so many photos, especially when it's time. I remember for our wedding, we didn't even get to eat, because we were like taking photos, and family was coming back and forth, so it was kind of tough. So I understand how stressful that is for some couples and for some people when they have a big event. So I try to be conscious of that when I'm planning my day, and I try to have them come into the studio early or 2 weeks early or whatever, so they can kind of get some photos in the studio or at a park, and then from there we can just kind of have fun that day. So again, find your niche, because that's gonna help you kind of like narrow down and see what you want to work with. Leveling up your skills. So lighting. Lighting is super important because it's what makes the photo. Right? Photography is about capturing light, right? Light coming into the camera, and that's what makes the image. So lighting is super important. Here I have a picture of Ms. Natzel's family. I don't know if you guys know Ms. Natzel.
Yeah.
She's also a para in here. So this photo is taken outdoors, and all the pictures that you see here are pictures that I've taken. So this was outdoors, and as you can see, it was a bright, sunny day, and it's hard to capture an image on a sunny day because the sun is so bright, your subject can be overexposed. So for example, and I'll pass this camera around just so you guys can get an idea. When you're working with lighting, you're gonna have your ISO, you're gonna have your aperture, and you're gonna have your shutter speed. And all these three things combined pretty much make up the exposure of the photo, which kind of helps you control the lighting. Do you want to break down what these mean?
Okay, so for the ISO, it is the sensitivity, right? So the ISO is the sensitivity of the camera's sensor. So the higher the number, the more sensitive it is to light. Some people might think, oh, that's great. I want as much light as possible. But that can also equal to a lot of graininess in the photo. And then the lower the number is, the less sensitive it is to the light.
So for you guys just to kind of see, right now you kind of see like a white display, right? And that's pretty much because I bumped up the ISO to about 10,000, which is kind of unnecessary in this room, right? So if I tend to do that, I'm gonna get a lot of grain, or my subject is gonna get overexposed. As I bring the ISO down, you guys can kind of see, you get to see more of an image, right? And with lower, you typically want to work with lower ISOs because you get a better quality photo. Once you start bumping up your ISO, then your image is going to get overexposed, and as my wife said, you're going to get some graininess in your image. So next we have aperture, which is how much, pretty much light, and this is where, for the most part, the bread and butter of the lenses are, because when you have a higher aperture, right, which is basically you're shooting wide open, or your lens. So let's put it this way: your aperture is how much blurriness you're gonna get out of your subject, right? So let's say everybody likes that professional camera look because you have your subject and you have the blurred background in the back, which is called bokeh, right? And people love that. And as you see here, right, we have our subjects, Ms. Natsu and her family, but then you know there's a field in there, but you don't see, you see it kind of blurry, which has the family kind of stand out a little bit. And people love that. So that's what your aperture is going to do. And sometimes when you have a good lens, for example, a lens that's going to say have a 1.2 aperture, that lens is probably going to be a little bit pricey because people love that. It's just the value of the lens. And it also depends, you know, how fast your lens is. So right here, if I were, you know, I'll show you. If I'm at 1.2, can you point at somebody with the camera? Do you see, like, are they kind of blurred out, or Can you see them clearly? What about the behind them? Do you see them as clear? No, right? So then when you bump it up to about, let's say you go to F10 or even F5, you see that the picture kind of got darker. The screen got darker, right? Right? Because that also controls how much light you're letting in. So again, it controls your exposure. So even though you might have a low ISO, if you have a higher aperture, then you're getting less light, so your image is getting darker. So a good way of controlling these things, kind of playing with both of them, right? But then you also want to, the third thing is your shutter speed, is how fast your lens is moving, right? How fast your lens is capturing the picture or your subject. So when you have a low aperture or a low shutter speed, that's when you start getting like those blurry photos. And people like to do those when they're using landscape photography, because that's when they start getting those waterfalls. But you want to make sure that if you're using a shutter, if you have a shutter speed of, let's say, 4 or 1/10 and things like that, you want to make sure you have your camera mounted on a tripod, because that's when your camera can get shaky, and that's when you, I don't know if you guys seen on Instagram, right? You have those photographers who are now starting to like have those blurry pictures where they might have somebody who's running, or a couple who's running and stuff like that, and it's blurry, and they might have the black and white because it's just about the aesthetic. So that was trending, but at the same time, like I was saying, they use that also, for the most part, they use it for landscape photography when they have like those waterfalls and you want to see that water kind of like falling over and very smooth. But for the most part, if you're capturing people, you want to be around 1/200, because that's going to mean that if somebody's walking or if they're moving, you're not going to get those blurry hands. You're not going to get those blurry movements. Again, and if you're, let's say, capturing a football game or a sports game, you want to make sure that you're a little bit higher than that, because people are on the move. So you want to make sure that you capture that still photo of that running back or that quarterback or that receiver or somebody hooping, right? Like, you want to make sure that you capture them dead on without having those blurry hands. Nobody likes blurry pictures, blurry hands, right? And again, those all control the lighting.
Thank you, Lonnie.
That's Kaylani. So you want to make sure you market yourself as a photographer. You want to make sure that whether it's Facebook, Instagram, any social media platform that you have. I know a lot of you guys use TikTok, right? So you can promote yourself on TikTok as well. And you also want to make sure that you have a website. Our website is pretty much in every slide, which is Gem Studio Co. If you have your phones, you guys feel free to kind of check it out. But you'll want to make sure you have a website, and you want to make sure that your website can be found on Google. So if you type in photography studio or whatever, you want to make sure that your brand pops up, especially with so many different companies. So social media and website, you want to make sure that you have your work out there. I do a very bad job of this because because I'm so busy, right? But I am starting to get more consistent with my work and my workflow and how my pictures look, which is one thing that you kind of learn as you go, is you want to make sure you have a consistent brand, or the way your images look. You want to make sure that they're kind of similar, and that kind of, lets the person know, it sets you apart and lets the person know, okay, I know who took this photo based on how it's edited, based on how it looks. And there's images that I've seen on Instagram, and I know exactly which photographer took that photo because of the style and the way that it's edited. And you want to network. Most of my business comes from people that I know, referrals. You know, you want to make sure that you talk to anybody you can, especially your friends and family if they have an event. Especially if you do a great job, people are gonna call you, right? If they like your work, they're gonna call you, which is crazy to me because for somebody who doesn't market themselves as much, especially on social media, I get calls all the time because people have seen my work from their family and friends and stuff like that. So that keeps me busy. So I make sure to thank them, and sometimes I'll do a free session for them, just because they're able to bring more business. But yeah, so social media, the website, and you want to make sure you network. You want to talk to businesses. This guy right here on the left, his name is Melvin Banks, and he works for State Farm. He's an agent for State Farm, which is a State Farm that I used to work for about 6-7 years ago. And he was a mentor to me, and it was kind of like full circle when he kind of called me. He said, "Gee, I need some headshots," and I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna be back at State Farm, but this time in a different way." So it came back full circle for me because now he also refers clients to me because there's other agents who also need headshots, and then his staff also, and it pays well, right? When you have businesses who want you to market their business, you know, they're willing to pay whatever's in their budget. So what I like to use to edit and everything, I use Lightroom and I use Photoshop. And I use a combination of these two because Lightroom, I use it to kind of organize my work and color my photos before I edit them in Photoshop. So what I do in Lightroom, I mess with the exposure, I mess with the highlights, the white balance and everything, just to make sure that all my photos are cohesive, that everything looks the same for the most part. And then when I go into Photoshop, that's where I kind of tend to pretty much perfect the photo by retouching the person. If they have imperfections, like if they want acne that they want smoothed out, if they have hair that's kind of all frizzy, we can kind of tighten that up. Also, if their teeth are a little yellow, right, or they forgot to brush the teeth that morning or something, right, I make sure that I touch that up as well and kind of like brighten those up and whiten those things out. And dentists love me for that. So that's what I do in Photoshop, and I also, it helps me crop out the things that I don't want, right? Like if for example, in my studio, right, I have paper as the backdrop, but the backdrop is not as wide as I need it to be. So in Photoshop, it gives me the ability to kind of crop out all the rest of my studio that I have in the back and kind of widen that paper so that the subject looks like they're in a bigger space. So these are some of the pictures that I've taken. And so this girl in the pink, her name is Esme. She just had her Sweet 16 party about a month ago. And she came into the studio for work because she wanted some pictures taken prior to her event. This right here, the wedding photo, that's my brother Giovanni and his wife who got married last year. And this is a picture of them in the Hartford City Hall. And then the little baby in red, that's my goddaughter. I love her. Her name is Kenzie, and she's so sweet. She always calls me, and she says, she says that I'm like her dad, even though she has a dad who's my best friend. So this is some of my work that I've taken. And again, there's a difference between the studio work, and then this is out, pretty much the wedding photo that's at a hotel room. And I try to make them kind of have the same feel for the most part. This is probably one of my, I love this photo so much. This was probably my, I think it was my second wedding that I ever did. And this is right in New Britain. This is in, what was that? Walnut Hill Park. That's where it was. And then you have Kehlani and then Miss Rodriguez's daughter as well for their senior photos. And I know you guys have some questions, and I'm gonna pull them up really quick. Because we're wrapping up. So for the as Edith kind of pulls them up, do you guys have any questions? Evan?
Do you tend to like, or like in general, like go to conventions, like conference photo shoots?
So I don't go to any conventions really, but what I do is if there's an event, let's say if there's a festival or if there's a concert or anything like that, I bring my camera everywhere. And you know, I ask if I can take photos. For the most part, people want photos, and if I can provide them for free, they love that even more. But what tends to happen is when I do offer my services for free, people still pay me anyway because they love the images. So when you're doing a great job, people are going to pay you for it. So I bring my camera. I bring my camera to concerts. I bring my camera to conferences. I do a lot of church photography, and so does my wife. And people love it because it gets to kind of showcase them. It gives them content that they can, you know, promote for their businesses, right? So.
Yep. So one of the most frequent questions we get is, how do you find clients? To be honest, apart from marketing yourself, the best way or the most ways that we get clients is word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth. That's for anything that you do, especially my barbering business. That's how I get most of my clients for the most part. If people like what you do, they're gonna tell somebody about it, right? And one of the things that I say for the most part, especially during my time at State Farm, is people are not gonna buy what you provide. They're gonna buy what you sell them because they like you, for the most part. So if you're able to be likable, right, or approachable, people are gonna tap into that, and they're gonna want to be a part and support your business. Does anyone else have any photos? I know my man here, you had a question earlier. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, what made you want to give up the camera in the first place? Why did you pick it up?
It was so random, bro. Because again, when my
What fun? But you want if someone
I never thought I was gonna do it to begin with. It was like somebody started a fire. As soon as my buddy called me to say, "Hey G, can you record my wedding?" I was like, man, I'm not. For some reason, I had the urge to just pick up a camera and just kind of give it what I got. And then I started going on YouTube, and that kind of piqued my interest on seeing how other people did it, and they did it with such ease and everything, and they were so creative in what they do. So that's kind of like why I picked it up. Ms. Miller?
Have you worked with pets at all?
with pets, I did one
Yes.
with my cousin and her little
Oh,
is it a pup
yeah.
or a pup or a pig?
No, she's not. A Frenchie, sorry.
Yeah, French bulldog. Yeah.
Yes.
But she was so easy.
Yeah.
Like that dog was such a happy. She's such a happy dog. And she was still very calm. And my wife and my cousin, she did a very good job of kind of like keeping her under control. So that was good to like, experience.
So would you try it again? Like,
Oh, absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely.
I'm very cute with
When was
it.
that? When was that?
You know what? I actually have a photo.
Yeah.
No, pull it up.
We have a dog ourselves, so we love animals. And we're pretty much open to anything when it comes to photos. Because we love it. Another question that we get while he gets the photo is, how often do you use Lightroom? Like he said, he uses it every time. He'll start in Lightroom and then transition to Photoshop.
Aww. Aww. That's cute.
She looks a lot bigger in the photo, but she's pretty small.
Yeah, she's very small, and this is her and her family. So she did like a little birthday shoot for her.
Oh, that's so cute.
French
For her,
bully.
yeah, for her 1 year birthday.
That's great.
So yeah, I'm never afraid of any challenge. I like to approach it the same way with the babies. Like that's how I figured out that's something I didn't want to do.
Like that's not good.
But still, I would do it if I need to do it.
Right.
And I'll take my time doing it, and I'll make sure that I can, prepare myself, especially knowing what I know now. I'm able to take kind of some of those skills and some of those experiences and be like, okay, now I know what I need to prepare for, right? For everything. So I apply this same technique, same concept, same most part skills into my barbering business because at the end of the day, I'm providing a service for somebody to help them feel good about themselves, right? So no matter what it is, you can apply the same concept, the same things that I put up on the board to anything that you want to do, any profession, right? If you want to, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? You want to make sure that you talk to people all the time, right? And as you're getting good at it, people are gonna, word of mouth again. That's how I got most of our business at State Farm. Our office was ranked #1, and I was one of the top producers in that office because I was good with people, especially in the demographic that I was serving, the Hispanic community. In the Hispanic community, I was able to kind of get those people into our office and provide a great service. And they referred me to other clients and other people and other businesses, right? So you can apply the same concept to whatever it is that you're doing.
Any more questions?
Any of you guys? Questions? What is something? Yeah.
Do you guys do like sport videos?
Sport videos?
Yeah.
That's something that I've been looking into doing. I definitely have the equipment for it, but it's something that I haven't had the chance to do just yet. And I would love the opportunity to capture somebody balling out or doing anything that they love to do, if it's sports related, for sure. Oh yeah. Is there a sport that you play?
Soccer.
Soccer? Absolutely. I would love to capture some video so you can post on IG and stuff. Yeah, I know you.
Vincent, his dad's the athletic director.
Yeah.
Tell your dad.
We haven't been to an actual game to film or take photos, but as me, one of the girl that we did her Sweet 16 for like about a month ago, she is a soccer player, so you see her in her cute little Sweet 16 outfit, but she has her soccer ball, she has her cleats. So we do have, we've taken photos of stuff like that. We also had a little boy a while back that he loved playing basketball, so we take photos of that as well. So while he's looking, I know the other one is, do you bring your camera everywhere you go? Pretty much everywhere we go, we have our camera. Because at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to be creative. Sometimes it's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to be creative if you don't have your equipment with you, right? Or you'll grab your cell phone, but it's not the same thing. So we always try to keep our camera always with us. Another question that we get is, we answered that already. How long does it take editing your photos? That is,
So,
you want to do that one?
yeah, so this is a perfect example. So right here for Esme, the photography paper, the backdrop is about this wide, right? So if I were to take a photo in itself, and I'll show you guys a photo, prior to this, you can still see the studio right behind it and all the rest. But for here, I kind of smoothed out her skin. I took out some of the blemishes that she had in her face and things like that. I was able to kind of like highlight her dress a little bit, and the jewelry that she had. So, sorry. Actually, I'll show you guys my Lightroom.
Yeah, I'd love to see your workflow because it's more professional than the one we're on.
It takes, I would say, on a good day, anywhere from 25 to 35, maybe 40 for just one photo. And with that being said, we always joke around every time we have clients that they'll be like, oh, my dress is a little wrinkled, or I forgot to polish my shoes or whatnot. And I always say, oh, don't worry, he'll edit that. And Guillermo's like, you have to stop saying that.
My wife gets me into trouble because she thinks that I can just edit anything out.
Or
for the most part, I can, but it's going to take me a little bit more time.
Yes. So if you prepare your client beforehand, sometimes we'll have clients and they forgot to put lotion on and they look a little dull. If you prepare them beforehand, it makes your work and it cuts out your work for you. So yes, we can iron the clothes if it looks a little wrinkly and stuff like that. But if you have someone who's there, they're getting ready, and Guillermo's like setting up the lights or whatever, usually I'm the one that I'll fix the hair, I'll fix the makeup, put a little highlight so when he's taking photos, it captures the light. And it just makes his life a little easier when he's editing. Because you don't want to spend so much time, especially if you're taking a session and it's like 20 photos and more. If you are editing, you don't want to take up to 45 minutes in just one photo. So try to be mindful of your time when that happens. But definitely, I would say on a good day, anywhere from 20 to 30, 35 minutes on a photo to edit.
So during the Christmas times, we tend to kind of like decorate the studio a little bit, and set up different decor depending on what the holiday is. So these are all things that we buy ourselves to kind of set up the studio. This was this year's theme. And by the way, this couple right here, this is Kadeen and Michael, and these are the couple. This is the couple responsible for getting us into this for the most part because it was their wedding that we were able to
Oh,
shoot.
that's so sweet. Yeah, that's cool.
And now they come every year for photos of their, of their newborn or of their family, and any event that they have. So
Oh, yeah, there we go.
this is what I mean about paper. It's very narrow, but with Photoshop, I can kind of take that and widen that out. So for the most, so let's say if I'm gonna edit this in Photoshop, after I make my adjustments using this right here, which I'm able to control exposure, right? Once I get into a level that I have, and something that I did to make my workflow easier as well was creating my own preset, so that I don't have to keep manually adjusting every photo. I can kind of just batch edit once I have a certain look that I want. So I think my presets are here. I have some that kind of change the look and the feel of the photo. I believe the one I use for this one is right here. So once I have it where I want it, I then go to Photoshop.
Anybody has any other questions?
I have a question about concerts. So when you go to a concert with a big DSLR camera, nobody gives you a hard time, or you have to give like a photo pass, or how does that work out?
One of the concerts we did was in Florida, and it was out in an open space.
Oh, okay.
So no one gave us any issues for that. I'm sure that if we were to do something indoors, we would need to get a pass.
Yeah.
But when it's open, and we've gotten a lot of gigs like that, where it's like an open concert and we're just taking photos and filming, and they're like, hey, you take photos. Can you tag me in your Instagram and we'll pay you for the photos that you've taken and stuff like that. It's crazy.
That's
the amount
nice.
of stuff, but I mean, it's fun. It's fun. So if you have the opportunity, I would definitely say take your camera, go out, explore. You meet new people, and you have great experiences.
So right here, right, we have all this mess, right, like on the side. I have a flash here that's showing up. I have grass balls that I have some flooring. So I want to kind of eliminate all that. So the first thing that I do is, and I thank God for generative AI that Photoshop has installed into Photoshop, because what I do is I take my lasso tool, and I don't have to be super perfect with it, but I want to make sure I get some of the shadows because it's still part of the photo. And what I do is I select invert, so it selects everything that's outside of that range. And then here, I go to generative fill, generate, and I let Photoshop do its thing.
Yeah, but generative fill at the high school is interesting because like the remove tool doesn't work unless you're 18 in Lightroom. So my 18-year-olds can use remove tool, but the other kids can't.
Gotcha.
18 years old?
Yeah, in Lightroom. The way I
What?
talked to IT, and they won't allow them to use remove tool in Lightroom unless you're 18 or above.
Wow.
Yeah, it's part of the package we have because it's educational. And then, but yeah, I can go into Photoshop and do remove tool, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do generative fill, which is good and bad. I actually don't want them to, because I think they're going to build things that are,
Yeah.
I want them to create their own stuff and
Yeah.
collage their own stuff, but I think to do this sort of thing is amazing because you get rid of the whole background
Exactly.
and just extends it out. I'm going to play with those.
So
Isn't
I'm
it
able
crazy?
to do
Yeah, I
this.
gotta tell you.
I'm able to do this on my own without using AI,
It's not like a license.
but it makes it quicker, and not having to pretty much waste a whole lot of time especially when you're editing photos, you want to make sure that you're able to deliver your photos to your clients in a reasonable time. So my turnaround time for the most part is usually 10 days or less. So because the photos take about 30 minutes each or more or less, depending on how much editing I have to do, I want to make sure that I can do things quickly and efficiently. So it's a great tool for me to use. So then from here, I already have kind of like some presets on my action buttons that I can pretty much go into retouching. So depending if it's portrait retouching, pretty much it'll help me smoothen out the face and the skin tones and everything like that, so everything's nice and smooth, so you don't see too many harsh shadows in the face, or if the eyes are kind of too dark a little bit, I'll brighten those up. So it gives me the opportunity and the tools to pretty much perfect the photo and give people the best quality photo that I can give them and make them feel good about themselves. And they're like, man, you made me look good, or you took away some pounds, or so they tend to feel good afterwards about that. So does anybody have any questions about? Yeah.
So, like in this case, you've got a pink backdrop,
Yep.
right? How many different backdrops do you have?
So
I would say about around 10 different colors.
yeah.
And we also play around with textures, so it's not just the paper. We have some that are like, they're like they look like a curtain, but it's like soft, just to give texture to the background. So it's not just paper, we have different backgrounds as well. And behind this, we have like a grass wall as well. So it's a lot of money that goes into it if you really take it serious, but it pays off because like that, we have different colors. People could come, choose the color that they want. You can always change the color, and it gives people options.
And I always consult with my clients before choosing a backdrop, especially when they send me work that they, for example, somebody may see a photo on Instagram and be like, hey, I want a photo like this. And I'm like, okay, how do we get there, right? Because one, you have to think about what they're wearing, right? Some people don't have the same fashion sense as some Instagram model, right? So you kind of have to work with their wardrobe. And then two, you got to think about, okay, how are they going to pose? Because not everyone has the same body shape or anything like that, right? Or they don't know how to maneuver their bodies in certain ways. So we kind of have to guide them in posing, or if they're with someone. So I always consult with my clients before coming into the studio to kind of have them prepared mentally, and also, with materials, with of clothing and stuff like that, how they're going to be dressed and their hair. So we always want to make sure they walk through them, do a walkthrough with them before coming into the studio, so they know what to expect. So if they are wearing, for example, she's wearing pink. The mom was asking me if I could do a baby blue backdrop. I was like, we can do it, but I think if we go with a pink backdrop instead, even though she has a pink dress, it'll still look, it gives it that monochromatic feel, where she still stands out, right? Because of her skin tone, the way, the dress is and everything, it kind of just goes, especially with the theme that we're doing.
And we can always, like, if someone says, oh, can you show me? We can always show them. But especially for Guillermo, he likes to give, like, the best quality ever. So we don't want to do something that's going to not look good. We want them to feel like, okay, that was a great photo, you were right. But we always give the client the option to choose what they want. They always say, what do you think? What's your opinion? So we'll give them our opinion. And usually, most of the time, they go with what the opinion we give them.
And for Esme, I remember, I think it was like 300 photos during this shoot, but we only delivered about 20, right? because I have the client select, okay, that's my package for the most part, right? Like, yes, I took this many photos, but they don't all look that great. So you kind of narrow it down and have them pick, okay, you can only select about 20, which is a tough choice, especially when they like the photos. So I have them sit down and kind of pick which ones they want for me to edit.
And that's for the studio photos, because obviously in their event we have a whole bunch of photos. You do photos of dancing, people eating, or like cutting the cake and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You do have more, but for like the studio setting, we give them a package. Sometimes we have like the Christmas package. I think it was like 12 photos, fully edited. And then, or sometimes we'll do 20 photos fully edited, and the price ranges. Yes.
When you do a studio package, you have them printed a specific place so that way your art is representative of the editing you're doing, or do you just give them their files, or do you do a little both?
So when I deliver the photos, I mean, so I use Pixie Set,
Okay.
and that's how I got my website for the most part. It's powered through Pixie Set, but that's also how I deliver my photos. So I
Okay.
send the client a link, and it looks a little bit like this.
And from that same
Sounds like they just get the
from that same place, they're able to print their photos.
Okay.
If they want their photos in a mug, they can do that. If they want it in a fleece sweater, they can do that.
And they can do it right through this website?
We,
They can do that right through this website?
Right through
Yes.
the
That's
website.
wonderful.
Yes.
Yep.
Nice.
So the client will get a link that looks like this, and it kind of guides them on how to pick and buy
Wow.
and kind of share, and this is what they get, and this is how they're able to see their photos, and they can download and share however they would like to. So I use Pixie Set. There's other platforms. I believe HoneyBook is one of them, and there's other few, but for the most part, those are the top two that I know of, and this is the one I started using just because I like the aesthetic, and you know, their pricing is really good too, and I'm able to do my website through them as well. And I also they also kind of show me how much I'm making for the year or
It breaks
per
it down.
project, breaks it down, so I'm able to kind of have that organized. So, and I'll kind of show you guys.
So Carrie looks like such a beast.
Yeah, come on, go ahead.
So yeah, this is,
How much do you normally charge?
right here I'm able to, it kind of shows me everything. I'm able to find projects, how many projects I have, if they're booked, if they're in, you know, if I'm working on them. You have to spell it?
So when they purchase the package,
Yep.
right, so like they're getting the digital images, they can print whatever they want, however they want.
Yep.
Do you give them some type of,
Like memory book or like
No,
other
no.
additional, no?
no,
That's
like,
what I was
it's a document, like the rights to, like
Copyright.
ownership.
Oh, the copyright.
Yeah, like
So-
ownership, so that they can print without a problem.
Yeah, they can always print without a problem because they're so what I do is a contract, right? And that contract kind of states that for the most part I have ownership of the images, but they're able to kind of print them once it's paid, the
they
image
can
is
do
yours.
whatever they want.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I asked because, for instance, as an illustrator, right, someone who draws and paints,
Yep.
I had taken a photograph of one of my pieces and asked my husband to just print at like Walgreens. It was no big deal, like
Yeah.
it was just a small print, and they gave him a hard time.
Really?
They wouldn't print because he wasn't the artist.
Really?
Oh, that's good to know though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never had that encounter.
For
they
us,
would not print, and he was like, "This is my wife,"
Right.
and they're like, "No, you're stealing, you're printing somebody's work," and he's like, "Yes, she's my wife," and he's like, "No." So it was
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah.
They would not print it. I had to go in person and prove that I was the artist.
Gotcha.
As
But
of, we haven't had any
Which was
issues.
funny.
You don't even call
As
you or
long as,
something?
once the person pays the amount, our watermark
Disappears.
disappears, and they can do whatever they want with the
okay.
photo.
Got it.
Before they do the final payment, sometimes they wanna look at the photos and don't have our watermarks.
Right.
But once it's paid for, they're yours and
At least with like the Pixie set, like you know their quality's good already, so like you're
Yeah.
encouraging them to do it off that site.
Yeah.
Now you get a kickback every time they buy something also, or
you get it, right? You get a percentage.
like a certain percentage of whatever sales go out there?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep.
It's kind of hands off, they can do what they want with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's better, so when we draw the contract or when it's like written up, it has ownership of work product and everything here, so the client has a copy of it as well, so they're able to show that if they were
If
given a
something
hard time
happens.
by any,
Yeah, it was really funny.
yeah, so,
For
you
me,
know.
not
And I love it because Pixie Set kind of does have this template already kind of installed, you just kind of customize it to,
That's nice.
one, to the laws of your state, and then two, whatever services you're providing.
I know Evan had a question.
Wait, how much do you normally charge them?
It depends.
So it does
Depends
depend.
on the package.
So we do have some different packages. And this is my booklet. So for the most part, so if I had, let's say somebody wants to do a shoot, it's gonna be starting off at $275. If it's a headshot, it's a little bit less because I'm just capturing their upper body, and it's just pretty much headshots for their resume or LinkedIn profile and things like that. But if you're doing like a birthday shoot and they're doing like multiple wardrobes, then you know it kind of goes up into the, I think it's 370 in that range, and you know it kind of goes up from there. But for the most part, between 270 or 300.
And that's just for the studio photos.
I have a quick question, we have like maybe 6 months left.
Yeah.
You mentioned the importance of contracts, and I know why it's important to kids. We haven't talked about it as much. So what happens if you just do a job for a friend or family member or to somebody you know, you don't do a contract? What's the pitfall on that one?
The pitfall is that if you don't get paid, you don't have anything to kind of like show that you did the work,
Right.
right? Or that you own it. And they can do whatever they want with it. And you did all that work and you got nothing for it, right? So, and sometimes families they're usually the toughest because they know you, they're gonna be like, okay, I'll pay you later, or I'll do this, then. You know what I mean? Or I'll take care of that later. And they kind of leave you hanging when you got bills to pay too, right? This is your work, this is what you do, and as you take yourself seriously, they have to take you seriously as well. So the more you're able to put that into place, people are gonna start taking you more seriously. Especially, and this is how you kind of tell the difference between a photographer who's just starting versus a photographer who's, you know, taking their job a little bit more serious, is that they have contracts in place.
Yeah.
Every single time. If you meet a photographer and they don't give you a contract, the pictures might be a little iffy, right? Because good photographers value their work.
Yeah.
They value their work.
Good advice.
Any more questions?
You got a question?
Well, I guess, what is the biggest takeaway you've gotten? I remember when you first started, because you had Brian in my class back during the pandemic. And you were
Yeah.
just getting, so when I put Mango Street in the video, in the school of you guys, it's because of him. Like, he's like, you gotta go check it out, you know? He was telling me that, and we were like talking back and forth at the time. What's the biggest takeaway you got in the last 5 years that like, of just working in your field and loving your passion, and working and making money from your passion?
Biggest takeaway is, I would say, just pretty much anything that I put my mind to, I can do, as long as I stay committed to it. And I know that when I take myself seriously, it grows like crazy, you know, because I never saw myself being in a position where people are asking me to take photos of their special day, like a wedding, or, you know what I mean? Because it's one thing to kind of record with your phone and take a picture with your phone, because you have tons of family members who are doing that. But then when you have a photographer there in place who you're paying to capture that special moment, right? Or somebody who's just getting engaged, things like that. Those are special moments, and I'm like, man, I get to be a part of that. So just being able to capture those stories, and I know that once I commit to it fully, you know, it just keeps growing. And I love that, because I'm able to kind of see more and more of that, right? So yeah, it's a good feeling.
It's beautiful because think about it, you're creating their story and it's coming into life. And it's something that they get to keep forever, right? Versus you have it on your phone, if you didn't save it to your Google Drive or whatever, you lose it, you don't have that. But in a way, they have this forever. You're creating or you're telling their story. And then it feels great when you have people calling in crying because it's like, oh my God, you captured this moment. I hadn't seen my grandma in so long and she was there with all the family. Hearing their story is, for me, the best thing ever. When they're so happy because they haven't had a family photo in so many years and they finally got it, right? So making people happy because of this or because they have photos for a lifetime, that's priceless.
Yeah. My buddy Gio, and I don't mean to be melodramatic with this, but his grandmother just passed away last week, and for his wedding, I was able to capture him with his grandmother, and he sent me a picture, and he said, "Bro, thank you for taking this photo because it meant so much to me."
Yeah.
Right? So even though it's a picture that I took last year, he's able to, go back into Pixieset, download it because it's still there.
Yeah.
And just kind of have that memory forever, right? So again, just capturing those special moments, it means a lot, and especially when you're able to do it with someone you love, right? Like it's even more satisfying, right? It's just I feel more complete, right? So that's why I like doing what I do, guys.
No, thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking your time out. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Give him a round of applause.